If you're new to mountain biking, then mountain biking jargon could be pretty confusing, as it is a completely different language amongst mountain bikers. So here is my beginner guide on basic trail-side mountain bike talk. Tombstone, gap, table, lip, launch pad, molehill, hook, kicker, double, booter, mound. In essence, it's all just a jump. Lots of words, one thing. It's a jump. I like to put berms everywhere if you haven't noticed just yet. A berm. I'll think of my berm addiction. I love a good berm.
A berm is a bank corner which allows you to lean into the corner and gives you a ton of support. You can go a lot faster through banks than you can go through flat corners. Roost. When a rider sends dust flying up into the air, there's nothing funner than doing this. Sadly, I don't have an example as it's currently wet out here. Usually roosts are done in the dry because there's really puffy brown pow, which by the way brown pow refers to dusty dirt. And anyway, roosts are also usually done in corners. Cutty, shrub, skirt, mainly known as a cutty, is basically the same thing as a roost, except it isn't typically done on a corner and it usually uses a rut instead. It's in essence just carving flat corners over and over and over if you want to on the road, but most commonly a cutty is setting dirt flying thanks to a rut. I can also not demonstrate this one as it's still wet out here.
Send it!
In essence, getting sick air wherever you can. Jumps, doubles, or even drops and bump jumps, and you just name whatever you can get air, you send it. Stomped. In essence, landing a really rare trick perfectly. So for example, Camzing 360ing a blind drop, he stomped it. Taco. This isn't as common these days anymore. In essence, it's basically tacoing your front wheel. Going a little bit too hard back in the days had consequences, and it would oftentimes fold the wheel, and that's why they call it a taco. This doesn't happen as much anymore thanks to the development of carbon. Trail ferries. I've experienced it personally. Trail ferries is basically the idea that if you go ride the trail one day and you come back the next, something is different the next day. And sometimes that's a small change, sometimes it's a very big change.
Yeah, and move on, Lewis. Hey, the wrong dog. Oh. What is that?
Drop or drop off. In essence, when a elevation change becomes unrideable and you need to air out. It's kind of like a miniature cliff, and it's a lot of fun when you don't crash. Line, or choosing a line. In essence, lines can be really important because that would allow you to go faster, and I definitely recommend that if you want to become faster, start looking at your lines. And basically a line is just which way you're going to ride through a technical section. Are you going to go across the right, across the left, straight through the middle, are you going to jump something, and just how you're going to approach a technical section. Stoppie. The act of balancing on your front wheels is kind of like a manual, but you do it on your front wheel. I can't really demonstrate this as I can't fully do it. Endo. Basically a stoppie except you stand still. So you hit that front brake, you let the rear wheel lift up and you're standing still, and then you balance as long as you can, drop it back down. Manual, I've already mentioned this one. It's balancing on your rear wheel with your body weight, no pedaling. Wheeling is also balancing on your rear wheel, but you don't use your body weight, you use pedaling to keep you up. Whips are probably the coolest and the raddest way to show off to your friends, and they're usually done on jumps, where you can get air. The skid is when the rear wheel locks up or front and you start sliding around. This is different from a drift in the way that your rear wheel is locked up, and that's usually due to brakes. And next up, drift. The only difference between skidding and drifting, like I said, is that with drifting, your wheels can start sliding, and usually this could be done for fun, but it can also go wrong around flat corners and stuff. You can start sliding even though your wheels are still turning. Pedal strike, or as I call it, pedal mash. Pedal strikes can be really scary, and they're pretty annoying too. Basically, when you're pedaling or when you're going around a corner or something and you hit a sharp object, most commonly in my opinion a rock, and this could give a sudden stop feeling and you could go over the bars. Flow. Let me explain it like this. Flow. What is flow? Basically, it is the action of having a smooth, and you can really like a smooth trail sometimes, but you can also really carry your speed through it. That's key with it. So for example, this is really flowy. There's not a ton of rocks and stuff that I can keep my speed off, and it's really flowy and I can just get into it. But even some of the best trails have a ton of rocks and roots in them, but they're still flowy because the corners and the straights link up. That's what makes a good trail. Flow is key to carrying speed. Dude, that was just so good. Perfect flow. I just felt the motion. So easy to carry speed. Holy moly! Look at that! I'm excited for tech. I do enjoy tech too. I love tech. This could be the techiest trail on earth. I see a really technical drop. Tech. Tech is one of my favorite things, and it is short for technical. So it's most commonly stuff like rocks and roots, and it could be used as an example with a rock garden, which, by the way, a rock garden is just a straight filled with a bunch of sharp loose rocks, and it's a lot of fun when you don't fall. Yeah, it sucks to crash in a rock garden. Anyway, technical stuff is really fun to ride, and it's usually very rocky. Sometimes it's really slow, so you can get like slow tech, like proper New England jank, some people might call it. That's what Seth would call it. And then you have your more typical roots and rocks and stuff. But in essence, as long as it's technical, it's tech, and I love tech. And finally, you might have heard of this one before. Subscribe to Nuke MTB. One of the coolest things and the raddest things you can do as a mountain biker right now, at this very moment, is subscribing to Nuke MTB. So what are you waiting for? Become a real mountain biker and subscribe. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Like I said, you should probably be subscribing. Comment down below and let me know what you thought of this video. And if you liked it, smash that like button. Till next time, stay nuke about MTB.